For the one that I chose as being the most Gothic representative, or the best candidate for a final term analysis, I chose The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. It just checks all the boxes when I make a Gothic analysis. First, the setting. It is literally a mansion, being the house of the Usher family. It is a great labyrinth and it traps the protagonist in it, making the reader feel claustrophobic while reading. Also, it acts as a symbol for the Usher family itself, with the crack in going down the middle that gets bigger and bigger until the whole house falls down when the Usher family members die. Then, for the taboos, there are a lot of them in the story, including death, murder, but the most prominent one and the most implicit one is incest. Then there's the atmosphere, which is very crushing, dark, and gloomy, which is exactly what we need in a Gothic horror story for the reader to feel uncomfortable. The nature around the house is dying, there's clouds everywhere, the house is poorly lit, and the protagonist is feeling intimidated by this whole place. Then, talking about the protagonist is led by his naivety to witness weird events and traumatizing experiences, and it's making the reader feel not in control of what's happening in the story, since the narrator are just tagging along with the characters, not doing anything to control what's going on. Lastly, there are the supernatural elements, and I think there's the most obvious one in the story, being the sister coming back from the dead, killing her brother at the end. How did she break through the door? How did she went up all these stairs, and how did she kill her brother just by falling on him? We'll never know, because the house is crushed and our protagonist flees from the place. So it raises many questions for the reader to answer after his reading, which is quite a common thing to do in a Gothic horror story. So in short, this story is exactly what we need for a long or complex analysis of the Gothic genre for a final term exam. So, for the story that just did not belong, I chose The Mortal Immortal. This story, even if it is a great story about immortality, just is not Gothic in any aspect. First, the setting. There's no castle, there's no labyrinth, there's no mansion, nothing to make you feel claustrophobic or like there's no exit. While reading, you just feel like you're with Whimsy, the main character, just talking with him about his life. There's nothing that makes you feel the need to leave or to flee the setting of the story. Also, there are literally no taboos in the story. There's nothing to make you feel uneasy. It's just a classic romance story, like Benjamin Bottom style, or just any romance. Then, also, there's no real gloomy or dark atmosphere. It's mostly nostalgic or even colorful sometimes, weirdly. So, yeah, it's nothing to make you feel uncomfortable. And then, there's no naive protagonist. Well, he's quite naive with his love, but in itself, he doesn't put himself in any danger involuntarily. And there's no real threat that is going to take advantage of this naivety, unlike the fall of the House of Usher. And lastly, while there is some kind of supernatural element with the immortality, it's backed by the fact that the potion that Whimsy drinks is made by a scientist, which just doesn't make it very supernatural since we know the cause of his immortality. So in summary, this story just is not Gothic in any way, since there's no elements that ties to the genre. To conclude, we read many stories this semester, and quite great ones, I'd say. But there's just some stories like The Mortal Immortal that I felt like did not belong in the Gothic genre or in our novel that we were reading. At the opposite, The Fall of the House of Usher is quite the example of a great story that could be easily analyzed at a final exam or even at any test during the year.